we are up to book 11, and this book is Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. Creation Lake is a book about a spy who reads emails. I thought this book was towards the lower end of a long list ranking for this year, but I would not say I really disliked it. It was just sort of middling to me, even though it seems to be not very many people's cup of tea. As I was reading this book near the beginning and I got hit with all of this Neanderthal shit, I went, oh, this is going to be the whole book. I'm going to throw myself into the sea. But then I sort of grew to enjoy that stuff anyway, all of the emails that our spy character is reading. Throughout the book, Sadie, the main character, is reading the emails of this old pretentious hack who runs this like eco-terrorist group. And the sections that are the best parts of the book is when she is reading the emails and when she is immediately interpreting what they mean in a way that sounds like she's a pretentious hack as well. The book makes it very clear that we're not meant to like this character or think she's a genius, and there's so many moments where she will say something very assuredly that is like the dumbest shit on earth, where she said like, you know, after a couple of drinks, I'm actually a better driver, you know? Another quote I liked from this main character was when she says that police vans more me their way towards something. Very childish. She's unreliable and unlikable. She talks about this previous instance where she convinced this boy to plant a bomb, and she said, now this of course wasn't entrapment, when it's the clearest case of entrapment you've ever read. So yeah, I think the author is very well aware of what this character is and how much she's kind of a fuckwit. The book spaces out its main point and the thing that it clearly wants to focus on, which is these emails, with this very boring, dry spy plot with this character who, even though they're unlikable, becomes very monotonous in the way that they convey their detachment. In every scene, the narrator has to specify, now I didn't care, of course, in this section, sex is just something I'm using, it's a means to an end, I actually don't care. And it got so repetitive and so monotonous how much she'd do that. And the trouble is that the pacing of the book makes it very clear that the Neanderthal stuff is what we're meant to be focusing on, and it lets you know that very early on. And so when the spy stuff starts coming in at about the 40% mark, like the actual proper spy stuff, you already know it's not going to matter. And I would say that the emails are the best part of the book. Somehow they don't feel like a thesis dump from the author. Some people disagree with that, but I really felt like there was a sense of framing where these emails are coming through the lens of this pretentious old guy. I felt like I was reading the emails of a pretentious old guy. I didn't feel like it was the author really ranting at me. It's kind of the opposite of Beautiful World, Where Are You?, which is the worst example of dropping a thesis in your book ever, where the characters sound like the author so conveniently. In this book, the character writing the emails does sound like a nut job, and he grows to sound more truthful and prescient as the emails go on in a way that felt natural. Throughout most of the book, there's a lack of mention of, I thought this way because of the emails. There's a very clear distinction between the emails themselves and then the way that the narrator interprets them, and the fact that they're two separate things and they're two separate sections that these happen in means that you have to connect one to the other. So when you read the email and you see the way she'll react to somebody or relate to something, you take how she's reacting from the previous email section that she's read. So it's good in that way, and the book spends most of its time not telling you to connect the dots, you just do it. Except for the ending when the main character lies at bed after reading all the emails and she's like got a tear in her eye and she says, Bruno, I felt that way too. And I cringed! She had tears on her face, this girl, and her face was my face, and her tears were my tears. What the fuck is that? Dog shit. Did you feel the need to say that just for the idiots in the back who didn't get what you were doing for 90% of the book? Fuck off. But yeah, for most of the book, I like how much of Bruno we hear and how little we see of him physically, and how much Sadie is interpreting what she reads and putting it into her own life without explicitly saying that. There's a couple of moments early on when she hints to that, but for the most part, it's like she reacts in a way that feels unnatural to how she's been set up, and that's because of the emails, and you know to make that connection. So I think the book does an okay job with that. But it feels like the spy framing is a little bit redundant, and I feel like the book would read a little better if it was a recount of real experience from someone who was a little more normal. The book could have done more interesting things with the character, especially in the second half, and especially with the spy shit. The only details that matter with the spy shit is that she sucks at spying, and she has big boobies. In this book, she's constantly referencing how good her tits look and so on, and I thought that was all dry and funny and so on, but I can't say I get the point of it. In the back half of the book, when the character keeps meeting new people, there's the thought in your head of like, how is she going to be messing with this person? How is she going to be using this person to maybe frame somebody else? Because it's functioning like a spy novel. And I don't really know why the book is making me think that way, when really all we're meant to be thinking about is the email stuff. Having this character's viewpoint where you're in the back of your head thinking, all right, she's reacting this way, so does that mean she's going to try and poison this guy, or is she going to try and get this guy arrested? And thinking like that doesn't matter by the end of the book, and I don't know why we spend so much time being forced to do so. Because ultimately all she's giving, this main character I mean, is an outsider's perspective on eco-terrorists and their sort of philosophies, and realizing their philosophies aren't unreasonable given the way that she's living. But if we just had someone who was more neutral in the experience and it wasn't like a spy book, I think I would have liked it more if it was shorter. Like, there's a few things the book is doing that feel quite sort of arbitrary. I guess maybe part of the point is showing how each and every one of these facets of society, as well as these eco-terrorists, are functioning in the kind of society that Bruno is talking about, but I don't feel like every interaction between the spy and the eco-terrorists is meant to convey that, and a lot of it feels very plodding and uninvesting. And then the actual spy stuff gets resolved in this climax, and it was so bad. Like, it's like this moment of really chaotic action where the target is there and then everything's fucking around, and then the target gets crushed by some logs. It's like so dumb. And then after that climax of action where the eco-terrorists run around and then someone dies, you get the aftermath. And in that aftermath section, the book could have ended at any single point after the ending of any paragraph, and it would have fit better than the actual ending, which was a reference to something 300 pages ago that you've already forgotten. So, very weird ending. A very, very weird ending. I like the book's philosophy. I like where the main character ends up, even though I don't really like the ending itself. And I like how little the main character addresses the influence from the emails directly. But I felt like all of these spy-related distractions from the main dynamic were very clearly distractions, and we weren't given a reason to give a fuck about them, so I didn't. The book is too long, and the spy fluff is just spy fluff. There are better viewpoints into late-stage capitalism and its effects that use framing more intelligently. As it stands, I think that the book is flawed, but there is some stuff in it I really like. Just get rid of the spy shit. It's like so dumb. Oh my god, she was manipulating people, but it turns out she was being manipulated by an old man's email chain. Shut up.